What's the story? Gurus, do we need them? Do we not need them? Why are we even in this class? We're going to talk about all of those things, or just become inactive for the ones who aren't really courageous or bold enough to leave. So when we talk about gurus, the word guru in Sanskrit means the word gu, the first part of the word, means one who dispels darkness or ignorance. And the word ru means one who brings enlightenment or one who brings vision. So the concept of a guru is not really like the concept of a teacher. The guru's role is to help the student, help the chela, to eliminate and dispel that darkness. The guru doesn't dispel the darkness for them. The guru holds up the lantern so that the chela, the student, can see the road more clearly and brings that enlightenment that already exists within the student, brings that enlightenment out. So the reason I share that story is because last night I was sitting in a group. There's a group of practitioners from multiple spiritual traditions, both Abrahamic and non-Abrahamic, metaphysical and non-metaphysical, and we get together, this group of teachers, on a weekly basis, and we share stories and we talk about how things are going, and it gives us a sounding board, so that we can get some really good feedback from outside our spiritual traditions. And so I was sitting with this group, and one of the guys who's a regular, member of the group, decided he was going to chide me for having dismissed an abusive student. And we were talking about some of the things that happened this week and some of the things that were a little bit uncomfortable for me, and for some of the students, and how I had to, one of the things I like to do least is to ask somebody to leave, especially because I recognize that when somebody is behaving in a way that's not acceptable, that's the person who needs to be here the most. So generally speaking, I would not ask somebody to leave. But if they begin to become abusive, I'm just not going to play that game. So this guy is somebody who he has a thought to share, no matter who speaks, no matter who believes that they're asking for validation or not. He believes his experience is, trumps all. He's had no formal training in any spiritual tradition. He's kind of a little bit of a know-it-all, and he decided he was going to start in on me. And I reminded him that I wasn't at any point asking for permission or validation or feedback. I was just expressing what my experience was this week, and was trying to explain how that felt, and get some feedback from people on how they deal with those feelings. You can hear that Craig is snoring in the background, so I'm going to talk a little bit more quietly because he was really tired this morning. So as we're continuing, this guy proceeds to tell me that he, in a past life, was was one of Socrates' best students, and that I was his student in this past life. And so he informed the group of that, not something that I actually know to be true. At which point, another person in the group, and this was amazing, this is a recovering addict, who is, she's got to be in her late 60s, if not her early 70s. Absolutely delightful. Picture Granny Clampett with an amazing spiritual heart. And she's from the Appalachian Mountains. She's a root worker, and she stopped working on the poppet she was making from the root, and she looked up at him smiling and said, "Well, ain't that interesting? If you were so in the past you were such a great teacher, but in this life you're an opinionated, attention-starved hot mess. So your past life doesn't matter. Sit down. No one asked for your opinion." And, and I think all of us about shit ourselves. Nobody wanted to laugh. A couple of us did, but we didn't want to. And And it really kind of put everything into perspective. And we decided we were going to all stand up and take a breath and just shake it off. And we did. Well, I got home last night and another person decided this class wasn't for them, which is really extraordinary given how much yesterday they said it was all for them. And we're only 4 days in. So what that really made me start to think about was, as we wrap up this week, I think it's really important for us to understand as a a tribe that's forming, that teachers and gurus are never the answers. They're the questions. So it's never going to be possible for any of us to reach the next stage in our development of living a magical life until we learn to ask better questions. And that's the only role that I play, is to help you to make those daily shifts that cause you to ask better questions of yourself, better questions of me, better questions of the world all around you. And so there's going to be two questions that I'm going to ask you to ask of yourself this weekend. Now, you remember that the homework yesterday was that sometime during this weekend, I'd really love it if you can, for you to watch the movie Practical Magic. And there's a reason for it. And the curriculum of this past week has been slowly building and building and building to this point that we're in today. And I always love it how things kind of synergistically fall into place to allow us to tell stories from our present experience into a curriculum that I write a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks out. So the two questions I'm going to ask each one of you to answer in the comments below today's video, but you don't have to answer them today. You could take as long as you want during the weekend, but I am actually going to read everybody's question, and you're going to notice a couple things. Many times when you comment on something, I may respond by giving you a heart, giving you a thumbs up, showing the sad face if what you shared was really heartfelt and emotional and sad. But you may notice that I don't always answer verbally to what you're saying. Please understand that whenever you respond to me, I do respond back in a way. Sometimes it's just holding space for you. Sometimes it's giving you the acknowledgement of the thumbs up or the heart or the laughter. Other times there needs to be, if I can add value to that conversation, I will respond. But I don't respond just to hear myself respond. I don't respond just so that everybody sees me responding. I respond because I have something of value, I think, to offer. And so I want to ask you these two questions. And in this case, I will respond the same way, either with holding space or giving you acknowledgement, or if I feel like we want to dig a little deeper, I might ask you another question. And when I ask you the question, here's what I want you to do. I don't just want you to answer my question because it was mine. I want you to make my question your own and ask that of yourself. So the first question is, what do you hope to gain from this class? And I know I asked you on day one what you hope to gain from this class, and when you signed in, and most people gave really kind of mamby-pamby answers like unicorns and rainbows and strawberry shortcake. Now I want you to answer me for real. What do you really hope to gain from this class? No more bullshit. I'm already impressed with every single one of you because you're still here. That's enough to impress me. And the second question, what are you willing to do to get there? And that's a tougher question. That's why I don't want you to answer it necessarily today. And I don't want you to answer it in a way that you worry about. I want you to work on, take all that stuff we talked about this week. Don't answer that question in a way that you think is going to impress anyone else. Answer that question for real, and it's going to matter in the future for you, because what we're moving toward right now, as we get to the point where now you guys understand what my role is, I understand what your motivation is once we get the answers to these questions, and we've worked through a lot of the little sort of petty things, the personality issues, and the tendency that every single one of us has at some point in our lives to say, "Hey, look at me, look what I could do." We've moved beyond that. So today, so we're in a really good space at the end of this first week. You're going to watch Practical Magic, and you're going to, as you watch it, you're going to notice, oh yeah, some of those themes from this past week are showing up in the movie, and that's going to lead us, because of the content of the film and the content of what happened in this past week, some of the struggles that we had as a community and as individuals, is going to lead us to next week's curriculum, which is really going to be a bit more intense, although really lighthearted. And I think it's something that's going to astound every single one of you that sees it for the first time. A couple of you have already seen this technique and are already familiar with this technique. So over the weekend, and I'm not going to put it up necessarily today. I have to first dig it up and make sure that I have a scanned copy to share with you guys. I'm going to share another of my books, and this book, this is a full-length book, so you may not get through it over the weekend. It is absolutely possible to do so because it's very light reading, but it's probably it's a couple hundred pages. But it's the sort of the text that we're going to use through the week next week, and it's a strategy that you can use to begin to experience what magic really is. And that's why it's really important if you guys could watch that movie, because I want you to kind of have in your head that difference between practical magic and pretend magic, between the kind of magical living that we're going to do and sort of what some of these folks who were coming here thought I was going to teach them. I'm not here to blow smoke up anybody's ass. That nobody benefits from that. When I do psychic readings for somebody, I give them exactly what I get. When I do pastoral counseling for somebody, I don't give them what I think they need to hear or want to hear. I give them what that moment calls for. And so that's what I've done this past week for you guys, and I apologize if that's been too abrupt for some of you. And let me know personally if you just can't handle that, and I will do my best to try and steer you in a better direction than this group, because when the ones who leave, I don't gain anything from that, and we don't gain anything from that as a community. They don't gain anything if I just say, okay, get out of here. So we really want this to really work for you guys. And I think what happens in the next week is going to make all the difference in the world. It's the reason why, by the way, when I do this curriculum, that the majority of the people who are going to drop out by the end of the year will have done so by the end of next week and beginning of the following week. Because if they can't absorb that material, if they can't get how simple this really is, then they're not going to. But you guys who are here, who are showing up every day, I really think this is going to be something that's going to be magical for you. I really think it's something that's going to be meaningful for you, and is going to begin to get you really jazzed. Because while you have to bring an open heart and an open mind, the practical magic you're about to learn is like a cornerstone fallback, go-to, cornerstone go-to for just about anything that can happen in your life. And so I'm really excited to share it with you guys. Have a fantastic weekend. I know we are going to just relax and enjoy this change of seasons. For me and my personal tradition, this is a lead up to a really big culmination point. It's the begin. It's our new year. Actually starts on the 7th. So this is the time that we work with the ancestors and we give thanks and show gratitude and really ask those deeper questions of ourselves of how we can become more intimately involved with our ancestors, with our heritage, with our past, and how we can begin to heal that past. So I'm going to be doing quite a bit of that personal work over the weekend, and I am going to be watching the film again just because it happens to be one of my favorites, and the story is something that I think we can't remind ourselves of often enough. So the books are actually a lot better, but the story is pretty good. So, or the film, I should say. So, guys, have a fantastic weekend. I apologize that I kept you a minute and a half over this time. If you have any questions, put them in the thing below. And then remember, your 2 questions to answer below in the comments sometime between now and Monday is, what do you hope to gain from this class, and what are you willing to do to get there? And just know that I will be checking out everybody's answer, and I will be taking your answers seriously, and I will take them to heart, because each one of you matters to me. And so as we say goodbye to one another for the weekend, I encourage you again to stay in the moment, to be grateful for what you've got. Fill that moment with gratitude, because if you can't be grateful for what you've got, you're not going to be any happier with more. And always remember, my friends, the best is yet to come. We'll talk to you soon. Have a fantastic weekend.